Okay, first, could you just give a brief introduction to who you are and what you do or what you did?
Sure. My name is Stephen Foster. I was a writer, director, producer at ADV Films, that's now Sentai Filmworks, I think is what their name is now, for 16 years, and have over 73 titles to my name. I don't know, not including all the episodes. And I was a little bit notorious for my script changes, and I've been retired since 2014. I'm most known for Ghost Stories, the dub. That's kind of the thing they're going to carve on my grave.
Yeah, I think that was definitely the title that stood out the most on your credits list when I was looking through it. My first question is, could you define what an ADR scriptwriter is and what it is that they do in the production process?
Sure. Yeah. Usually, well, at least it worked at our place at AV and Sentai. You get a translation, and it's either provided for you by the Japanese studio that has it, or the licensor that has it, or you have a transcriber transcribe it for yourself. And I think we did that a lot with ours, almost all of them exclusively. So we had fresh translations of it, and then it's given to an ADR script writer, and he takes. Back in the day, it was with a VHS, but you'd take a VHS and you'd watch the show and you'd read along with the translation, and you'd try to repeat the lines from the translation to rework it into a line that would fit the lip flaps. And it's very tedious. It takes a long, long time. But after I picked it up pretty quick, and it was really pretty easy. And I think that's the case with most people. Once they, have about 10 under their belt, they're like, oh yeah, I got this. And even though you work as hard as you can, the actor will talk slower or faster sometimes, and sometimes it's just short. So whoever's recording it always is going to have to tweak it a little bit. But it can get pretty solid where you don't need to change that much if you work real hard.
So the next one is it's less common, but I have seen the role ADR Script Supervisor. So I was wondering if you could explain what that is and what the difference between those two roles were.
Well, we didn't have anything like that, and I don't know if many other anime studios do, but I would assume it's the same as a script supervisor that works in like a writer's room in television. But with anime, I guess they would be they could be anything from like just making sure that every line is recorded as it's supposed to, or continuity could kind of like play a little bit producer. Or could be signing off on scripts. It's a wide open word and varies industry to industry. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. It could be one of a bunch of different things. It sounds like. Could you explain how you personally got into ADR work?
Yeah, I was a award-winning advertising writer. My forte was radio, and so I had my own little shop for a while. And this, long story short, a girl that used to work at a production house where I did my post work on my commercials wound up getting a job at ADV, and she was the production manager there. And that's right after the Pokemon explosion, and everybody was hungry for anime. And so everybody was just kind of starting out, and I was the second director hired at ADV. So she called me. She said, well, when you're doing radio, you're directing, it's just without pictures, right? I said, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And so she said, well, that's what this is. And so I tried it to see if I liked it. And I had two kids that were real little, and I wasn't going to go to LA to get a job because I wasn't going to leave them until they were 18. And it sounded like a good idea, and I had already done what I wanted to do in advertising, so I left. And then I've been there for 16 years, from 1999 to 2014, or 1998 to 2014. And do I need to say more? I feel like I'm talking too much.
Oh, any additional detail that you'd be willing to provide, I'd appreciate.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I would take the script, and originally I was hired to make the scripts, I quote, make the scripts more accessible to a Western audience. Because at that time, anime was, it's fringe, more fringe than it is now. and everyone wanted on television real bad. So there was a real, not dumb down the scripts, but well, in a way, kind of, but make them more accessible to an American audience. And so you change the language and just freshen up a little bit. Our humor in America is more aggressive, really, than like Japan's is. So you kind of tweak it up, you know, like think Bugs Bunny and the Anvil and stuff like that. So you kind of cranked it up and the energy up. I was okay with that. And then I did Orphan, which was a fan show. It was a big one. And I got like my finger wagged at me, and I was like, well, do you want me to change everything? And like, no, just stay closer to the script. And I was like, sure, right? Because I didn't care. And so I did, but I said, do you want to change the mandate? And they said, no, keep making them Western. And I said, okay. And then gradually, and so I would change some that were really, really in need of help. And then others I didn't have to change hardly at all because they were a really good script and it was fine, but they were paying me to change them, so I changed them. But I didn't tell anybody that when I worked there. I just took a bullet for the company because it was better. Everyone think that it was just Steven running around being an asshole than having it be a company mandate. So I guess that's a little scoop. I did real well. I was pretty good. I was one of the, they called it fosterization, my treatment of the scripts. And so I'm in the Urban Dictionary. I've never been a verb before, so that's kind of fun. I don't agree with the definition because the definition's like you fuck with it just because you can. And the real definition is, no, I changed it because I thought it could be changed better, and that was what the process is supposed to be. But and I did. I won Sub of the Year and a lot of awards. Some of my stuff won stuff. Out Magazine listed me on their Hot 100 list for the work I did. I landed on the cover of Magazine. Did the first and only American Anime Awards, and got pretty much the pet projects that went in that came in there. They all needed a little extra nuance, like the Halo anime series that came in with that was given to me, and that piece of shit Starship Troopers one I had to do, and the Appleseed franchise, and some of them were really nice. They were really not Makoto Shinkai. I did Makoto Shinkai's works, but Aramaki, I can't remember his name now, Japanese director, and he did very, very highly stylized computer animated stuff, and it was really gorgeous at the time that I had left. The process has gotten so elaborate, not Avatar level, but I mean it was still really pretty good. Then just left.
So one thing I noticed was, in almost all the credits I saw, I think it was pretty much all of them. Any time that you were credited with ADR Script, you were also the ADR Director. So I was just wondering. Yeah. So I was wondering if you could explain the relationship between the two and just how involved is the director, at least in your experience.
Very, very. And I think anywhere I would assume at any studio they are. But yeah, you take the script and if you're the ADR writer, I'm doing both, so it's easy. And I kind of did both for like the whole tenure there, so I don't really know how it works with someone else. I'm assuming the ADR writer tells them stuff they need to know, but mostly the production schedule's so tight. You got the script and you just go on in. But since I was writing it, I was more comfortable with it, more familiar with it. So so it gave me more time to like just sit on the characters and see how I wanted them and picture everything in my head and kind of pre-produce it before I went in there. What else have I thought? But yeah, we didn't have you didn't get like a dossier or anything like that where it's like, here's the brief on these are all the characters. It's just, and the poor actor only saw like the scene they had in rehearsal or in audition where they got it, and that's all they knew about the thing is like, hey, you're Betty and you own a harem and you like to wear green, go. And you just record it. In the old days, it was nice, the production, like everything back then, everybody had a job, and now everything is faster, and every freelancer has to be a writer, director, producer, graphic designer, social media expert. But back then, it was one person per role. so it was a lot easier. You had a little bit more time, and we would record about 15 lines an hour, maybe 25. And then I got to be the fastest, and 50 was kind of the average for everybody. And then the economy hotel anime started going nuts, and then it was just a sweatshop. You'd do like 70, 200 lines an hour. It just took all the artistry out of it, but that's what it was.
So how?
I'm sorry. Am I answering your question good enough? You can tell me if I'm not.
Oh no, I think that you've been doing fine so far.
Cool.
Did you have something to add?
I'm sorry, say again? Oh, just that, not really, just that the relationship between them, there really, at least at my experience, there really isn't one. He just does the script, and I'm sure the director, although they may not with production schedules, maybe they don't even see it when they go in. But they watch it, and so they know, and they cast it. The scriptwriter and ADR writer really never had anything to do with the show after he had finished writing it. I assume someone could have him do auditions for them if they really trusted him with that. I don't know, but usually not. The director does that, and so then you have the auditions, and you cast the main cast and all the characters, and then like you bring people in for various characters. Like you have like someone will come in and they'll play like 6 minor characters throughout a series, or even 10 or something like that. And you're always fighting for young voices. You find a guy who sounds like a 12-year-old boy, and you do not let him go the rest of his life. And you cast people on the street. I mean, I remember I was in the bushes sometimes looking for people I'd hear them talk, and I go like, can you act at all? Because your voice is great. And I do have one fun casting story if you want to hear it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it was the show Orphan, and there was a little blue. And when you get the show from Japan, you get the tracks are split. You know, the voices on one track, and then all the music and sound effects are on another. So you keep that. But this one, Orphan, they had a blue wolf cub that was the character, and that showed up around episode 5 or something like that. And that wasn't done with like hand sound effect barks. It was done like an actor was going, arr, 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 talking like the dog. And so I was like, fuck, now I gotta find someone, because I hate it when that's someone acting like a dog. It sounds like it's just breaks on my nerves. So I was determined to find a dog, and I had so many actors came in and they didn't sound like a dog at all. So I was super frustrated, and I was like close to production. Like the next week I had to go in, and I was at this bar, and I was drinking a martini. And I heard, it was just like a lounge, like a Dean Martin lounge kind of thing. And all of a sudden, from the other side of the room around the corner, I heard this, arr, 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 barking. It sounded exactly like someone had their dog in the place. And I was like, what? And so I looked around the corner, and there's this gorgeous blonde who's telling this group of guys a story about her dog, and she's barking like the dog. And I was like, holy shit. And so I waited for her to finish telling her story, and I looked, I had one business card on me. Because, you can't come up to somebody and go like, hey, I do cartoons. Do you want you just sound Evie. And so I went up to her when she was finished. I said, excuse me, can I ask you a question? And she goes, yeah, sure. And I said, I do cartoons for a living. I write and direct them, and I'm actually in the market for a dog, or specifically a blue wolf cub, but you sound great. Can you do this when you're not drinking? And she said, I can't believe someone's going to give me money to bark like a dog. She had the heckiest accent I've ever heard in my life. So Pasadena, it was just hilarious. And so, but she'd never acted before, but she came in and she was the best dog I'd ever worked with. It's fantastic. She was a liquor representative, during the day, but on weekends we worked for her so she'd come in and do it. And that's the best casting story I've ever got.
I guess the next question that I have based on what you said is like, and I think what I've heard from a couple of other people is like, I heard that the script itself, and you mentioned this before, like when you kind of adjust it to, you can adjust it kind of on the fly in order to adapt to whether it's the actor or,
and fitting the flaps, yeah. And because sometimes you have to change it because they just can't get the line. You're like, especially text speak. Text speak is notoriously hard.
Did you say text speak?
Text speak. Like, we gotta do this gig, the SIP and RAM to the 75 gig a meg.
Okay.
That's hard for people to pull off.
So are those the primary two reasons why scripts are changed?
Yeah, they don't match the flaps, because that's how we were. I mean, I'm sure most studios were, and most anime that I've seen has it. I mean, you really pride yourself like nailing those flaps. I gave a talk to the Texas Library Commission because they were going to have they were trying to put anime in the libraries. I mean, that's something I'm sure they're not doing now. But I showed some clips, and this one librarian raised her hand, and she said, "I'm sorry, so these were in Japanese first?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Oh, I would have never known that." And I said, "That's the point. That's what we're trying to do." So you would change it, then plosives sometimes wouldn't work, or they just didn't work, and you had to change it like that. But if you get a really good ADR writer, it's pretty tight because you work the lines. You read an ADR script writer works really hard. I mean, it's a chain gang job because it's very specific. But yeah, that's the only reason you would change it, unless like the ghost story situation, which is 1 in a million, is that the studio says, "Here, we would just like to recoup some of our investment. You could get whatever you think is going to work, and to sell the show, do it." And so, and the Appleseed franchise, when they came in, Halo, Captain Harlock, a lot of the quote unquote A projects that I get, they wanted me to change the script. They were like, do because I did it for them once, and then they could come back and they were like, "Oh, we'll change the script for us." So they would rely on me to fix some of the plot holes and stuff like that. So that was kind of my forte. That's why they gave me all this stuff, is because I could come up with the other stuff that didn't have to stick with the translation. So Ghost Stories is the one I changed dramatically. Milk Chan I changed kind of dramatically, not the one that aired on Cartoon Network. They aired the bad version, not the good version. And I got a bad rap for changing all the scripts, but I didn't. I only changed like probably 10th of them before I worked on. But I did what I was told. But I was good at it. I mean, I liked it. I was an actor's director. It was fun working with actors, and I'm not a bad writer, so I enjoyed it. I've been writing since I was 7 years old, so I'm just happy to be doing it.
Well, see, now I'm really curious. So, like, if you could kind of just take everyone that's listening back to the whole ghost story situation. I don't know how often you've been asked this before, but it seems like they just came to you and said they just said do whatever you want with the script.
As a matter of fact, it's a YouGuide channel. You go, hey, maybe you can point them to mine. I just started a YouTube channel because there's so many people. Well, I can tell you the ghost story. And no, you know what? There's so much written about it, and no one ever asked me. I think one, Red Bard, her name's Kennedy. Red Bard is her YouTube channel, and she's like the only one who ever like called and asked me, "Hey, what's your the story?" And everybody else just makes up shit, and everybody believes it. The whole trek of it was they came into the studio. It was supposedly what I heard is that it was like part of a package deal. Now that's what I heard on the street after I left. They didn't tell me that. That wasn't my business. I don't care. All I knew is that they got it for dirt cheap or free, and that the company was like, it didn't meet our projections. So whatever you think you can do to make it sell, we're open to it. And so the president of the company goes, "We'll give it to Steven." And so they came back with it, and they said, like, "Here's the show, and you can change anything." And I said, "Well, wait, this is me you're talking to. Do you know what you're saying?" And he goes, "Yeah, we know what we're doing." I said, "Okay, you asked for it." So I just fucked the hell out of it. I was like, "What?" So just made it edgy, crazy, and nuts. And the previous show I had done was Gilgamesh, and I didn't have to change that script very much, so I went in with the translation. Because I was writing scripts, I was like, I could save some money and time if I just did it while I did it, or did the translation while the script while I was directing. So, and I thought, well, maybe it'll work for ghost stories. Maybe I can do it with that. So I wrote the first one, and believe me, and there's a video, you can go to my channel, and the video that just went up tells this whole story, but basically, I was like, well, I made it up as I went along. I wrote the first one, and then after that I thought, well, let's just make up the jokes as I go. And if the engineer laughed and the actor laughed, I went in the show. And if it didn't, I was like, well, I keep making up jokes until the lines until they did. The rumor got started that the cast was, the entire show was ad-libbed by the cast, and that's not true. They were great. actors, but they weren't writers. But they did contribute about, several dozen lines, like 2 dozen lines. So yeah, if they had a good line, it went in there. And I was fine with everybody just thinking that was the way it was until, there were like, they started making a bunch of bullshit about me and stuff. And so I was like, well, I've had it, and I need to say thank you to all these people, because I was writing thank you notes in the comment section of all the 200 and something Ghost Stories YouTube videos there are. And, I can't do that forever. So I thought that I'd do a YouTube channel to thank everybody for being so nice, because they have. I mean, they turned a 20-year-old cult hit. I mean, it was this minor cult hit in 2005, and then 2014, it becomes this thing. And now it's comedy canon and stuff like that. It's crazy what they've done to it. So I can't. It's the greatest thing ever. They've been so good to me and so thankful. And so I thought there's so much mythology about the show. The best way to say thank you to them is say, like, well, here's some stories about how it was made and how the lines changed, and this is the whole story of Ghost Stories, and kind of said the main reason just because everybody wants to know. They always ask me questions about it, and so I figured I'd answer them because they enjoy knowing, and they're funny stories. And then to set the record straight, to finally go like, okay, kids, this is what the real story was. So because I felt it was time to tell it, and especially everybody who dogged me and said I was a hack. This is the very thing that they hated me for. The script changes is the very thing that got me Ghost Stories. So just kind of a little bit. Yeah.
Another thing I'm curious about is, because you said you started what, in like 1996? Is that what you said?
98.
98. So like what, I'm curious as to the
the content?
Well, that and how the process evolved with the changing technology, because you mentioned before, like, it used to be VHS tapes. So like I'm just wondering how things shifted over the course of your career.
When I started ADV, and from what my understanding is that that's kind of how every ADR script, every anime studio worked with it. You had a paper script, and that had the ADR script in there, and that sat in the recording booth with the actor, and that's how they read their lines, they knew their lines. And you would go through, and then when inevitably you had to change a line, you'd have to, like, the director would have to come up with the revision, tell it to the actor. They'd have to write it down in the book, and then they'd have to record it, and so it like took this huge amount of time. And I was like, God, after a couple of years, I was like, there's got to be a better way than this. Because I was changing the scripts all the time. So I was like, they need to see my changes, and I didn't want them to be the fucking secretary. So I thought, I asked the tech guys, I said, look, can my screen, can they see my screen? Like, can you make a mirror or something where they have a monitor that shows exactly what's on my screen, and that way they don't have to type it anymore. The work is on them. I can just spit it out, and they can see it right there, and they can see the screen simultaneously. And they go like, well, sure, we'll figure it out. I was like, seriously, no one had ever thought of this before? Because I'm not that smart. And so they rigged it up, and it was like, so now the script was on the screen next to or with the I can't remember if it was on the same monitor as the one next to it, but it was right there with the thing. And the benefit of that was also they weren't looking down on a script, so their voices the head was tilted up, so it was more on the mic, and they were left off mic as well. So it was just a win-win-win-win-win. We saved a fortune in studio costs, and I'm still saving them money to this day. So that's one way it changed. And now, of course, everybody's doing it. I'm sure even some podunk little studios probably doing it that way, now. But, DVDs were just starting. Actually, I was one of the first ones to start putting extras on DVDs. That was what I was known for too, is I do a lot of stuff for the fans on that. Easter eggs were something that happened when, in my career. Just things we didn't have before. It wasn't digital. I do remember here's a funny story. An actor came in the booth one day this is a couple of years after I'd started, maybe 2000. And he goes, have y'all heard of Google? We were like, no, what is that Google? I sent a search thing and I bought stock on it. I'm dying to look at it, ask him now, what do you have? How many millions do you have? Because that was when nobody heard of it. But subtitling, you have a person there with a chyron, and they have to like cue it up and key it in, and now YouTube's doing their own captions and stuff like that. It's not always perfect, but I mean, we didn't have that in the day. That was just someone doing it. So a lot of the process has been automated really now and digitized. So that's really the big change. And yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. And like everything, the capitalism is it's a flawed system, and it's impacting everything, and it impacts anime just the same. Your budgets are short, or your budgets are less. Your time is less. You have to go faster. There's less people on the job. It's like anything else, any other employment in the world. It's just in America. It's getting squeezed. So I'm sure that's how it is now with everybody else. And that was the case at my place. They worked me to death, and I had to quit. I was like, it was killing me.
Did you? I'm trying to remember exactly when everything started kicking off. Like, did you retire before or after simuldubbing or broadcast dubbing became a thing?
Oh, okay. So that was right at I was there for that because we had the Anime Network, and they were doing that on there. I'm pretty sure, but don't quote me. I was really, this was so stupid. There were tech people that did all that stuff. It wasn't my gig. I didn't have to know that stuff. Now, if I was in there, I'd probably never know everything. I mean, I knew a little bit, but, they were just, you'd hand that off to someone else, and, I never saw what happened to it after that. So I'm kind of lacking in that knowledge. I can tell you it's certainly more mainstream than it was.
That's for sure.
It's crazy. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, my parents still don't know what I did for a living. But yeah, you say anime now, and everybody's like, fuck yeah, I know anime. Which is really cool. It's still a signifier of cool. I mean, it's shorthand for cool. Any movie wants to key in that it wants to say that a character's cool to an audience, just put an anime poster on the wall, and everybody go like, that kid's cool. It's really neat. And they're the greatest people. I hate saying the word fans because it makes me put it like you're above them or something like that. And I mean, to me, they're just friends I don't know really well yet. But they're just the nicest people. I didn't give a lot of interviews, and I really didn't want them comfortable taking compliments and in the spotlight, so I kind of didn't do it a lot unless I had to. And now I meet them all the time in chat rooms and stuff like that, and they're the nicest people. I'm having the best time talking to them. They're really, really sweet. They're really sweet. They're just a really good crowd. Anime people. They're really, they're all right. They're all right. 99% of them.
So I guess I'm curious too, because you guys meet people in the chat rooms. So have you gone to since you retired specifically, but have you gone to conventions or meetups and stuff like that since then?
Oh, only one. No, only one. The Akon asked me to come up in 2016, maybe something around 2016 to 17. And I did a thing on Ghost Stories then. We're always fantasizing about someone should get us all together for a 20th anniversary. That tour would kill, but I don't know if anybody do it. So no, the only real fan interaction I have is when they hunt me down on social media, or they email me, or they got me through my website, or they reply to a comment that I make in a Ghost Stories video that's on YouTube, which is where I met a lot of fun people. It's really fun. And when I first did it, they were like, this isn't Steven Foster. They were like, this is some guy just posing as it. Like, what do I have to do? And somebody did not believe it was me. And I was like, yeah, I'm here. I'm saying thank you. And they were all really sweet. The goat. They're just so nice to me. They're really, really nice to me. And so I hope if you can mention the channel, that'd be great, because the more people that find out about it, the more people I'll be able to thank, and that'll save me from writing more individually. Oh, that's right. It's my name. You spell my name STE7ENFOSTER. There's a 7 instead of the V. I changed that after I had a nervous breakdown and went crazy.
Uh, actually, I think we've been through all of my questions. So,
Super.
yeah, I want to thank you for coming on and agreeing to speak with me today. Really appreciate it.
Well, can I tell you something?
Yeah, sure.
You have a fantastic voice. I would put your ass in the booth in a heartbeat.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And really good questions. Thank you so much. Edit the hell out of me. I talk too much.